Now, the second news thing is all around Ivan Provorov. Now, you would have to have been asleep for the last couple of weeks or last couple of days. It feels like weeks, but it's probably been days to not see everything that's gone on with that. Not obviously the initial, the day that it happened, so to speak, and then the kind of chaos that's ensued following it. And I know that a lot of podcasts, because I've listened to many over the last week and many today, to be honest, in preparation for today, have kind of danced around the issue, or they have kind of reverted to the message in terms of it being a very corporate message from the NHL, which is understandable. Now, we're not affiliated with the NHL, which means we have some liberties that they don't. So we can kind of say what we think. But what this isn't about, just to be clear from the get-go, this isn't about what we're about to say. It isn't about Pride Night. It isn't about anything to do with that. It's not about inclusivity as a goal, as an objective. Nothing to do with that. The bit that I think needs to be discussed is the way in which Ivan Provorov, the backlash that he's had for the statement that he made. And just to be clear on the statement that Ivan Provorov made, what he said was, and I've got it written in front of me so I don't get it wrong, I respect everybody and I respect everybody's choices. My choice is to stay true to myself and my religion. That's all I'm going to say, which is what he said before not going to practice with the Flyers because he didn't want to wear the Pride jersey. Now, whether you agree with his decision or not, that's up to you. I personally don't, but then I'm not a religious person, so it's easy for me to say that. But as somebody who is an atheist, and I don't mind saying that on this podcast because I don't, it's my choice, like somebody else's choice is to be whatever they want to be. That's absolutely fine. I think if you're going to be truly accepting, if you want to see the word inclusive, fine. But if you're going to be truly like a liberal society, then we have to accept everybody's opinion. Even if you don't agree with it, you have to accept it. And that's what I don't like about the backlash from Ivan Provorov. It isn't whether or not I agree that he did the right thing or didn't do the right thing. It's not my choice. It's his choice. Like, would I wear the jersey if I was a player? Well, yeah, I probably would. But then that's my choice as a player. His choice was to not do it. But the fact that he's had a ton of stuff thrown at him, pretty hateful stuff. But then what's happened is you've then had this kind of two ends of a crazy spectrum in terms of people's opinions are now at war with each other around something that is very much a kind of storm in a teacup in terms of one player deciding not to do it, which is their right to do, by the way, which is my point here. It's his right to not do it. The second you create conformity around this sort of stuff, the message is lost. If you tell somebody they have to nod every time you finish a sentence, they're not agreeing with you. They're just doing what they're told. You know what I mean? If people, it has to be people's choice with this. And obviously I'll let you speak in a second, JP, but that's the real disappointing thing for me. I think the NHL could have just quashed all of this if they'd have just said, look, we don't agree with him, but it's his right to do what he wants. And end of story for me. That's like the end of it. Okay, probably wouldn't be the end of it online. We know that, except for our listeners, of course, who are all lovely, lovely people. But we know, and most of our listeners are on Twitter. Like, they know the kind of monstrosity that is, you don't have to go too far on Twitter to find, or any social media platform for that matter. I just felt like the message got totally lost the second that it all became about the fact that he was just wrong to do it, and what a horrible person he was for doing that. And NHL Now, I can't pronounce the guy's name who did it, but one of the guys on NHL Now made a statement, which I'm not going to read out because it's too bloody long. Okay. But for him to say, you can go back to Russia, which is just, I'm paraphrasing. That's essentially what he said. If that's your opinion, you just feel like saying, whoa. Everybody's entitled to think what they want to think. You don't have to agree with them. Doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It's a personal opinion. The second that you tell people they can't have a personal opinion, that isn't a society I want to be part of.
No, definitely not. And I should lead by saying I strongly believe that every human being, regardless of gender, ethnicity, status, every human being has the right and deserves the right to live a life where they can pursue happiness and have the same opportunities and live a life with dignity and safety and be included in the same thing as every other human. So, I want to lead by saying that.
Yep.
But that includes Provorov. and like you said, even if I don't agree with him, the hateful backlash that he's gotten for something, and what he did was an appropriate way, in my opinion, to express his beliefs. Like you said, he didn't really speak on the matter. He said, I'm opting out, and he cited his religion as the reason, and he left it at that. And yeah, like you said, even if you don't agree with him, and I wouldn't have done that. I probably don't agree with his personal stance on it. But yeah, the hateful attitudes towards him and the way society justifies that kind of treatment of people on certain issues is, I think it's taken it too far the other way. And I agree with you. We've seen how this goes. And you don't want to live in a society where people are guilty of thought crime, where we punish people and shame people and people lose their careers and things like that over what they think. Like that's not the world you want to live in. Now, are there, can there be public consequences for the things you say? Yes. But I thought Provorov dealt with it in a way that was appropriate for his belief, for his perspective. He didn't make a big thing out of it. He didn't promote hate. He didn't say anything about it, that it shouldn't be inclusive. I mean, honestly, and really by reacting to it the way that people have, they're actually giving the problem more fuel.
Yes.
It would have been better to just be like, okay, Provorov's not into it. Obviously, the NHL still has a very strong stance on it. They still wore the jerseys. They made their statement clear. Provorov sitting out has zero effect on these movements, these ways of thinking, on inclusivity, unless you give it power. And so I think people think they're doing the right thing by spewing hate at a guy like that. And you're not. No. You're really not. You're not helping anybody. You're just promoting bad attitudes, and you're giving it more attention than it needs.
100%.
Like, it should have just been a blurb at best, and everybody should have moved on. And this is coming from a guy I don't agree with Provorov's. I don't agree with his point of view, but
he's entitled
to it.
Like,
what are we doing? Yeah, he's entitled. He's entitled to it. What are we doing here?
Yeah, we and you were talking before we went.
What are we doing?
And I've got friends that are from all different religions. I've got some friends that are Muslims. I've got some friends that are Christians. And I said, and I'm sat here as an atheist, but that's fine, because they don't tell, we don't, it doesn't matter. They're entitled to their opinion, their beliefs, their thoughts, and I'm entitled to mine. And I think that's what it is. I think what it's been made out to be, like you said, has made the problem worse. I mean, the fact that we're talking about it shows how blown out of proportion it's been. I mean, this happened on, if I find the date, I can't, but we're talking a good few days ago now. Okay.
And everybody's still talking about it.
And we're still talking about it. And the problem is, it's like a snowball now. So it's gaining, and it's becoming like I said, it's kind of almost like us v them. And you're like, whoa, like this is now getting silly, because now the real message behind everything that the NHL is trying to do has been completely lost. The whole point is that, as it started off with the kind of, hockey is for everyone. Like, that's what this message is supposed to be. But that means it's for everyone. Everyone.
Right.
Like, people that agree with you.
Exactly.
People that don't agree with you.
Exactly.
People that believe religion A or religion B or religion C, or think the world's flat, or think the world's round, or think whatever. Everyone.
Right. And it's so hypocritical to say we support diversity and inclusivity, except Provorov.
Yeah.
Right. I know. That's absurd. That's not inclusivity. Now, I understand we shouldn't support hate. We shouldn't support violence. We shouldn't support discrimination. But I think to say that what Provorov did represents any of those things is taking it way too far.
I couldn't agree more.
It's taking it way too far. And actually, it's interesting. We're not outliers on this. I actually saw the response on Twitter and the public response on this. There are a lot of people that feel that way, that feel like it was a step too far.
Yep.
So I do think society is maybe shifting back the other direction a little bit, in terms of understanding that inclusivity means accepting all viewpoints, or at least accepting people's rights to express their viewpoints, right?
Like, that is it.
Like, it doesn't necessarily mean, and I know when you're talking about law and stuff, I'm not talking about changing the laws, to support hateful attitudes and those sorts of things. I'm just saying people have the right to have their own opinion, like you said, and there's nothing wrong with expressing them. And it just worries me sometimes. It's we're taking this stuff a little too far, folks, I think, and this is from a guy who doesn't agree with Provorov's opinion on this. I don't, but I think we as a society need to protect people like him too. Like, it's not okay for everybody to, I don't know. It's just too much.
It's too much. I think
I can say it over and over, but it's too far. Just how venomous people got with him, and they felt justified in doing it. Like, it's just,
I know
there's a lack of perspective here,
And like everything on social media, it is as a minority of people. This is not, like you said, I always kind of, some things when they kick off on Twitter, I always see, and actually I was listening to something recently that said that social media is almost like a non-reality. So it's not a true reflection of society. And I think that's probably right. Mm-hmm. It has some of our best bits, but it has some of our worst bits. And those worst bits get amplified to a point where it looks like everybody feels this way, or most people feel this way. In reality, most people don't even use Twitter or other social media platforms that may exist before people think we're on for some sort of like Elon Musk backhander here. But
right.
Yeah, I think we've covered it.
Everything's amplified.
And as we said, look, we don't agree with him, but what we do agree with is people's right to an opinion. And I think if we lose that, that's really dangerous, man. It's really dangerous.
It's not the kind of world you want to live in. We've seen how that goes. History has shown us how that goes.
Never ends well.
That's not the kind of world. Trust me, not the kind of world you want to live in, where people get punished and criminalized for their thoughts
or their religion. And let's be honest,
exactly.
We've seen that before in history. So